Hello, thank you for joining in. So today I'm going to share with you that how I learned R only through Stack Overflow. So since many people requested for this topic, actually not many but only two people, so this is for Eric Fletcher and Rajmouli who requested this topic, and I think this can be applied to any of the programming language. So if you want to learn any programming language through Stack Overflow, maybe my journey or help you to do that. So let's start. So when did it all begin? I was introduced to Stack Overflow at my first job. Actually, we were all a bunch of new joiners, freshers who had recently joined the company, and one of the senior members of the organization was giving us tips, tricks that how could we improve our technical skills, productivity, etc. I don't remember any of the other points, but I remember one thing that he mentioned, that whenever you get free time, you can start answering questions on Stack Overflow. Now, to answer that, you need technical expertise as well, right? But the benefit with Stack Overflow is, even if you don't know a particular domain, a particular language, but if you still go through the answers or questions which are asked there, it will give you immense help and will help you to learn a lot of new things. So when that senior member advised us that he has been answering questions, I think he had answered around 50 questions. He had some repetition point of 2500, and I was very impressed. I was thinking to myself that one day maybe I'll be able to overcome him. In that company, we were told to learn R programming. So I started following the R tag, taking a look at what are the questions which are asked there and what kind of answers are provided. So initially I was trying to understand how I can positively contribute to Stack Overflow, since I did not have actually enough knowledge to answer the questions at that point. So I was thinking, what are the other ways in which I can contribute? So I found out that you can edit questions. If you think a particular tag should be added to this question, you can do that. Then if you think there are some typos which you can correct, which will help better the question, then you can do that as well. You know how on GitHub, whenever you want to start, right, people recommend that you start by correcting the documentation, maybe correcting the typos in README files on GitHub. Similarly, I think on Stack Overflow, you can start by editing questions that you can correct, or even by doing that, you'll understand the question more, and maybe that will help you to understand the answers as well. So I started doing that. I started editing questions and suggesting edit. So you cannot directly edit questions. You have to suggest an edit, and that gets approved by the moderators or community members. So slowly by doing that, I got hold of the questions, like how a question should be asked, what should be present in a question. And then while I was doing that, I could also see people answering the questions, right? Trying to understand how this answer applies to the question which has been asked, and try to do it myself. Still no confidence in answering questions, so I was happy doing with the editing. Who likes to be wrong on the internet, right? There are so many people who are ready to correct you if you are wrong, and nobody wants to be wrong. So I was okay and happy just doing the editing of the questions. So the next phase was trying to, guess answers. Since I was spending good amount of time on Stack Overflow and reading through the question and answers which were asked, so I said, let's start with guessing the answers. What could be the answer in this question which was asked? So more than 50% of the time, I never understood the question and what I need to do for that. That is fine, but for the remaining 50%, I could understand the question, but definitely I did not know how to solve it. So I was guessing, like I had seen a lot of answers till now, and based on that knowledge and the things which I was learning, I was trying to guess the answer, what could be the answer, and then wait for others to answer and see if one of those guesses is right and that is the correct way to solve it. Stack Overflow is pretty fast, actually most of the questions are answered within minutes, unless the question is very hard. Within 5 minutes, you'll get an answer on normal days. So it was pretty easy for me to understand, like my guess was correct or not. So sometimes I used to wait for the answers, and whatever I had guessed, that method or that function was not used. If that is the case, in the next 15 or 20 minutes, my guess has not been answered already by somebody else, then what I used to do is try to solve it myself with the function which I used to think should be the answer. And if sometimes I get the answer, what was expected, then I post it as an answer. So slowly, this helped to develop my intuition about which function should be used in which situation. So after I posted an answer, then somebody would comment that this will not work in a certain scenario. Then I used to understand, okay, I see, that's why nobody answered with that function. But this was a learning phase, so I was happy doing that. Slowly, sometimes my guesses were right, I could post an answer. One good thing which you need to keep in mind is really understand that not to take these things personally. Everybody's trying to help you, everybody's trying to learn. So after answering few questions and editing a lot of them, I got an idea that how a question should be asked. I started asking some questions on Stack Overflow as well. I thought that I know how to ask questions, but it was not true. The initial questions which I asked were heavily downvoted and closed. I remember one time that I was also banned from the site from asking questions for the next 7 days because of asking too many poor questions in a very short interval. But it was all learning, and since I kept on asking questions, slowly I understood, okay, what exactly is required from asking questions. I've already made a video on how to ask questions the right way on Stack Overflow. I think that would be helpful. So by answering questions slowly, I started building up confidence that yes, I could answer the questions. Although I see that the people on Stack Overflow are very fast, but I think it's more of a practice. If you keep on doing that, slowly you'll build up speed as well as quality. So the key factor is not giving up and starting very slowly. Actually, if you look at my journey, it was a very slow process. I did not answer questions for a very long period of time. I was just editing it, and slowly I started answering it. Slowly I started building that confidence through which I could answer many questions. Stack Overflow is one way in which you can learn a particular language. I think it is very unorthodox. I think very few people would suggest that you use Stack Overflow to learn a language, because most of the times we go there just to find an answer to our problem, which is correct, which is not wrong. But I suggest using Stack Overflow because it worked for me. That's why. Other way in which you can learn a particular language, learn by doing it, is building up small projects, putting it on GitHub. That is also a good approach, but there are some advantages and disadvantages to that. So the advantage of learning a programming language through GitHub by putting up such small projects is, so you can write an app or write bigger functions which does multiple things on GitHub, but on Stack Overflow you write answer to only one particular problem. It solves a very small part of a very big thing. So that is an advantage of putting it on GitHub. But the major disadvantage which I find of GitHub is, or building such small projects, is if you are a beginner or if you are not famous, then it's very difficult that somebody else will look into your code. Initially, when you start learning a language, it's very important that you do it in a correct way or you get proper feedback, right? If you learn it hard way, then it wastes a lot of your time and energy, and because of that, you might feel to give up and not learn. So on GitHub, if you put up a project, it's very rare that somebody would look up into your profile, go through your code and give you the feedback, right? But on Stack Overflow, everybody is answering questions on the same page. So a person who is an expert, who has enough knowledge on the subject, will be on the same page as you, and even if they don't want, they have to look at your code, and somebody might come up and give you feedback that you could use X instead of Y and you should use Z instead of X, etc. So that helps on Stack Overflow. So you'll get that instant feedback and you can correct your methods or correct your coding style immediately. That's why I suggest Stack Overflow instead of GitHub. So I guess that's it. And if you have any feedback, comments, suggestions, please feel free to comment and let me know if this video was helpful to you, and see you soon. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.